I can get another one.
Good afternoon. Can everybody hear us okay? Steve, is that your microphone? Is that my microphone? I'm not moving it. We'll give it a start, we'll see how it goes. Okay. So first of all, thank you very much to everybody for coming out today. I know that it's very hot.
This is very hot.
Very hot in here. I think before we get started, I think everyone knows who Graham is, so I'm not going to do any introductions or anything like that. I'm going to go straight in and him talking as much as possible. Graham mentioned on the stage earlier that he'd been here 35 years ago. And so I was wondering, Graham, maybe you could start off by telling us just your memories of that trip.
Oh, right. The memories of 1987. Very clear, very clear. Yes, it was like it was yesterday. No, it was part of a tour we did with a play by Vincent van Gogh called Letters from the Yellow Chair. I'd written it with my good friend Nicholas Pace. And we did it at the National Gallery in London, and we got a lot of interest from American art institutions. And so we took it all over. But one of the places we went to early on was Oklahoma City. And we did it at the Oklahoma City Art Museum. Yes, right. And it was great. Really an amazing, amazing experience. And learning about the history of Oklahoma, you know, the land races, the whole, you know, Oklahoma Territory. I love all that stuff. So it was right up my alley. And then we had this agency that came to see us in New York. We were doing it at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in January of 1987. My God, this is so long ago. Oh dear God, oh, there's loads of you who won't have even been born. Yeah, wow. Anyway, we were doing it there, and this lady came to see us, and she was from the modestly titled Greater Talent Network, which, I mean, yeah, the really big talent agency. And we got taken on by them for the show, and one of the places they brought us to was Tulsa, Oklahoma. And we did it here at the junior college, one night only. And it was a great experience. I think I've still got the Tulsa Junior College T-shirt that I was given at the time. So yeah, that was the experience of Tulsa.
Fantastic. And I apologise to any of you that got you up my kilt there. That was unintentional.
It's never unintentional. Never.
All right. So one of the questions we got, we had this online. We had some people submit this online. And Anne from Oklahoma City this morning also asked it. What is your favourite place in Scotland and why?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. My favourite place is actually very, very difficult. Very, very hard. I mean, I did a lot of cycling in Scotland. I did long distance cycling around. I did all over Argyll. I went Arran across to Kintyre and then across to the Inner Hebrides, and then up to Cape Wrath. We ended up in Cape Wrath, and then went east through Strathroycal to Inverness. And that was an amazing ride. Scotland is a great, if you're into cycling, it's probably not the first in your mind at the moment in this tent. You know, I'd love to go cycling at this moment, but it's a fantastic country to cycle through. So one of the places that I always wanted to cycle up is a hill. Now I can't pronounce it, my Gaelic isn't that good, but it leads across the Applecross Peninsula. It's part of the North Coast 500, and it is an incredible ride. You can go on it in a car, motorbike, or if you're really masochistic, you can go on a bike. There's virtually no shelter. It's a giant hill that goes on and on and on and on. But the views when you get to the top, right across over Skye and Applecross down at the bottom. That is a beautiful spot. If you've never been to it, go there.
And Graham, you mentioned your Gaelic's not that good. One of the questions from Debbie from Owasso was, did you know Gaelic before Outlander, or was that something you learned on set?
Yes. The dreaded Gaelic question. Yes. We used to, Stephen Walters, who you may know played Angus in Outlander. He was from Liverpool, and he used to refer to the Gaelic lessons as the Gaelic lessons. I'm going for the Gaelic lesson, Dave. I'm going for the Gaelic. And Sam likes to pretend that he had some wonderful knowledge of Gaelic, and it's all rubbish, absolute lies. Gary Lewis, when we did the scene, the banquet scene, I can't remember which episode it was in season 1, but anyway, he has to do this huge Gaelic speech. And in the rehearsal, Gary simply recited the names of Scottish malt whiskies. Laphroaig, Brunaclare, all of that, just one after another. That was his idea of a good laugh. I love that people think that Scotland is full of people that speak Gaelic. There's more than there used to be. It is a language that is coming back, but sadly it is still a minority language in Scotland. And I myself, the last person in my family that would have spoken fluent Gaelic would have been my great-great-grandfather, Alexander, who came from Argyll. And Gaelic would have been his first language, and he would have arrived in Edinburgh, and he probably didn't speak English, actually. He had no real education, so there's no reason why he would have. And he would have been definitely treated at that time as a second-class citizen for being a Gaelic speaker, because it would have given him away as a Highlander, and Highlanders were, at that time, this was in 1830, they were still regarded with a lot of suspicion by people in Edinburgh and the Lowlands. So I don't speak it, I wish I did, but I definitely did a lot of it in Outlander. I have a massive speech in one episode, I think the Raids episode, and I had these huge idiot boards. I'm not ashamed to admit it, just all around the set, people holding them up with the entire speech in Gaelic. Listen, if it was good enough for Marlon Brando, it's good enough for me. He had the lines from The Godfather written on Robert Duvall's costume. And it's true. So, so that's my Gaelic.
Okay, up next we've got a question from Scott Graham Long.
We met earlier, Scott, yes.
Is that Dr. Long?
Yes, sir.
Dr. Long. So, Steve's going to bring the microphone over.
Okay. Oh, yeah, this way.
So, one of the more memorable performances from you is of Dwalin in The Lord of the Rings, and your good friend Gary Lewis played a dwarf Hrothgar in Aragon.
Did he?
He did. And of course, Billy Connolly and Ken Stott have all portrayed dwarves.
Indeed.
And then we throw in one Welshman, John Rhys Davis, as Gimli. Hollywood is always casting Scotsmen as dwarves. Never as elves, never as men, until you in Rings of Fire and Blood. You're a man now.
Indeed. Yeah, right, yes.
But the dwarves are always Scots. So why does Hollywood have this predilection of only casting Scots and Irish and Welsh as dwarves? And should we be insulted?
No. Far from it. Far from it, because obviously dwarves are the best race in Middle Earth. Clearly. They are. Who would want to be an elf, frankly? Not me. Not me. We used to have a kind of semi-joking hatred of elves when I did The Hobbit. It was pretty bad, yeah. You didn't really associate with the elves. The tent, which was much bigger than this that we used to eat in, you would all eat with your group. So the dwarves ate together. Ian McKellen would
we would let him eat with us and Martin. So we allowed hobbits and we allowed Ian, but the orcs all ate at one table, the elves were at another table. It was kind of, and nobody planned it. It was really strange. But anyway, yeah, Scots and dwarves. I think really, it's because there's something very earthy about the dwarves. There's something very sort of rooted, tribal, and I think that lends itself very much to the kind of clan structure of Scotland and of Wales and Ireland, that they recognise that. So when I was cast as Dwarf, you were not allowed, there were no dwarves that had a straight English accent. They were all either from Northern England or from Scotland. And Ken, as you rightly point out, I mean, Colin, I know you call him Colin, bloody hell. Gary was in Aragon, did you say?
Aragon.
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 What's Aragon the dragon?
Yes.
Oh! What? He's in that?
Yeah. He plays the dwarf.
He's a dwarf. Does he have a really big beard and, you know, like...
Not as big as yours.
Well, it's often being said about Gary. But Gary is, I mean, he is, he's not being rude, he's not a tall man, Gary. I mean, he's a shoo-in for a dwarf. Yeah, but a lovely man, a fierce hugger. Has anybody been hugged by Gary Lewis here? Yeah, and you all live to tell the tale. Yeah. He hugs, his hugs just go on and on and on. I mean, there's always that moment in a hug, because we all know how to hug. Everyone hugs. And so you go in and you lean into a hug, and you're like, okay, a little bit of pressure, a little bit of, not like limp, not like your arms are hanging off them, you just, you know, a little gentle pressure, holding on like that. And then you give it like, hug, release. Oh my God. I've just been shown a picture of Gary Lewis. So that's an image I'll never be able to get out of my mind. Dear God. So yeah, there's that moment where you feel, okay, now's the end of the hug. That has never occurred to Gary. Never occurred to him. He just goes on and on, you know, night falls, you're still there, he's still holding on to you, you've lost circulation in your arms, you know, you're hungry, and he's still hugging you, but he means well. But yeah, be warned if you ever get hugged by Gary.
Okay, so I apologise, we seem to be having some technical difficulties with this fan. We're going to open the sides up a little bit and try and let some air through. It just seems to be working. It's going to come in and out. And what we're worried about isn't chips and power, so we'll do the best that we can, but apologies for that. So we've got Christina from Oklahoma City. Do we have Christina?
She is.
Okay, Stephen. We've got a lot of people in the house from Oklahoma City.
What project are you the most proud of and why?
Which project am I most proud of and why?
Which project am I most proud of?
Well, it's an impossible question actually. It's like saying who's your favourite child, you know. It's very difficult. I've been very lucky in things. So I love things for different reasons. I mean, Outlander and The Hobbit both have very much in common the group that we worked with. That we all started together, we bonded together, and we remain friends to this day. Other projects, you get to know people on them. You sometimes stay in touch with them, and you sometimes don't. But there's always a reason to love something. I've been lucky not to hate any projects that I've been in. I've been in some bad plays. There's definitely been a couple of bad plays. One was a new play that was written. It was a Scottish play actually called The Dominion of Fancy, and it really should have been a great play. It was a true story of two actor managers that had a theatre one above the other, and they were constantly trying, this is all true, constantly trying to sabotage each other during performances. So they would like try and set fire to the set, they would all sorts of stuff. So we recreated this on stage, and for some reason, it was just awful. It was really bad. And I would, every night, and when things are really bad, you can't help laughing. Well, I and so I would be what they call corpsing every night. So corpsing means you're on stage with another actor, and he says something, or you're about to do something, and you just break character completely and start laughing. Not professional at all. Not a cool thing to do, but sometimes you feel it like building inside you. It's like this terrible animal that's trying to get out. And suddenly you bite the inside of your cheek, or you bite your tongue, or you do anything to try and stop this coming out. And once it's out, that's it. That's it. You can barely continue. I've been on stage with people who have corpsed, and they have just walked off the set, leaving me alone, completely alone, to carry on with the scene, filling in with their lines. You know, I remember doing one play, and the actress came on, and she had to shake our hands, right? This is a little bit of a disgusting story, just to warn you. She had to come on and shake our hands, and she was an extraordinary character anyway. She was always trying to make me laugh, and always made herself laugh for some reason. I don't know why. But anyway, she walked on, and she goes to speak. Now prepare yourself. She goes to speak, and she coughs, and out of her mouth comes something. It's not nice. You know the kind of thing that you very discreetly cough into a basin when no one is looking. You know that is. It's all happened to everybody. You know, everybody it's happened to. It's okay. But she did it on stage in front of 1,000 people, and she coughed into her hand. Oh yes. And then she did this. Yes. And that's when she walked off the set. That's when the actress played my sister walked off the set laughing, and I was left alone to try and continue with the scene. So yeah, I don't know how we got onto that, but anyway.
I don't know how to follow that.
No, nor did I.
So we had a question online from Aaron Brewer. It's very similar to one from Valerie Phillips. Valerie has travelled all the way from Arlington, Texas. When are we likely to see Men in Killed Season 2?
Men in Killed Season 2. Yes. We go to New Zealand. We filmed it in January and February of this year. And you know, I'm not going to say it was some of the longest weeks of my life, but they were. They were. If you thought that he scared me in season 1, he's diabolical. I mean, I know you all think it's funny, but when you're with this imp, this spawn of Satan that is traveling in a van with you around, and all he's doing from the moment he wakes up till he goes to bed, probably even while he's sleeping, is think of things to do to scare me. And so we haven't got an exact date yet. We're still in the edit. We've got a few more little tweaks to do. We've got to do some ADR, which is you do some recording after the fact that we need to pick up. So I am going to say roughly the end of this year at the earliest, probably early next year.
Fantastic. Is there Connie Anna from Dallas, Texas? Okay, so I'm gonna read your question. There's a couple of parts to it. I don't know the significance of this, Graham, so I'll caveat that first. So the first part of the question is, what was the most uncomfortable thing that you had to do during Outlander filming? And then it follows on with, I dare you to say, thanks, breakfast in bed was great.
Well, yes. What can I say? Okay. My most uncomfortable scene in Outlander. I mean, to be honest, I've done many things that are much more uncomfortable than doing Outlander. Outlander was really easy for me in that regard. I mean, Katrina had it hard, because Katrina spent pretty much, well, the first couple of weeks of the shoot wearing nothing but a slip, shift. and she would have hot water bottles secreted about her person to try and keep her warm as we were outside and it was pouring with rain. And so she was definitely uncomfortable. I mean, nothing even remotely compares to The Hobbit in terms of discomfort. I mean, in The Hobbit, I had 400 pounds of fish poured onto my head while I was in the barrel. So that was uncomfortable. That was for 5 times we did that. 5 times. I don't know if you, for those of you who haven't seen it, there's a scene in The Hobbit where we're hiding in barrels and we arrive and we're looking and we see Bard the Bowman talking. And we all find this very suspicious. And Peter had got us together, and Peter had a policy of basically picking people, either because he got annoyed with them at some point during the day, or just because he thought they could take it. And he was constantly bringing, it was always me and Jed and Adam. So it was the cycle of things. We were the guys that were brought into this stuff. And so we had to get into these barrels, and we had a stuntman show us what was going to happen. He was wearing a crash helmet, just to give you an idea. He was wearing a crash helmet. And they say, okay, and cue the fish get pulled in, they go up to the top of his chest, and that's it. You're like, okay, right, all right, we're ready. And so we do that. After that, Peter Jackson's sitting there going, and he has that kind of slightly strangular accent. Peter, he kind of talks like that. He's like, and he kind of stammers a little bit. He's like, no, just, you need more fish. More fish. So now they add more fish, and the first person to be put in this barrel was Adam Brown, who had confessed earlier that day that he was actually phobic of fish, which I didn't even know was a thing, that you could actually be scared of fish. But he is scared of fish. And so he was the first one in this barrel. Right. Nobody in the history of the world had ever been in a barrel with 400 pounds of fish being poured over. So he sat in it, and they're doing the thing, and there's a trop above his head, and you hear the direction. Okay, and you see Bart the Bowman, you get suspicious, and you're looking around, and fish, and all these fish just, and it literally just went, and he disappeared, just disappeared. And everyone was like, wow, that's amazing. And then you heard, Adam, are you okay? Could you say something? And there was silence. There was nothing. And they started to take the fish out. And it was only afterwards that we realized, because when we did it, that it was basically like having liquid concrete poured on your head. Because every single gap was filled by fish. So you had to create an air pocket in front of your mouth to stop dying, basically, death by fish. And we sat there, and Adam, it took him about 10 minutes to get the fish out. And so he was stuck in this thing, and we did that 5 times. So nothing on Outlander was even close to that, nothing. And yes, thank you, Breakfast in Bed was fabulous.
Fantastic. So one of the questions, and this is a really long name, so I'm just going to say Michelle, online had asked was, if you were not an actor, what profession or trade would you have chosen to be? Did you ever have a backup plan?
Yeah, I don't know. I was going to be a pilot. My dad was a pilot in the war, and then he was in civil aviation, so I grew up around that. And my plan was to join the Royal Air Force after university, do a lot of training while I was at university, join the RAF, then join civil aviation. And I've done the medical, and I joined the air squadron at the university. And then I realized that the things I loved about the possibility of being a pilot was you got to dress up in a really cool outfit, you got to travel a lot, and you had the opportunity to meet sort of pretty girls. And really I just thought, well, why not just be an actor, and you can do all those things without having the responsibility of flying 400 people across the Atlantic. So I kind of got into acting a little bit by accident. I wasn't planning on being an actor at all, and I was asked, and many of you have probably heard this before, but I was asked at the last minute
be in a school play when I was 17, and I agreed. Just, I don't know why. And then the bug kind of bit me, really, and I did a lot as an amateur. Did a lot of amateur dramatics. I really have my mother principally to thank, and my dad. My dad, because being a parent myself, I know how much you worry about your kids. You worry about what they're going to do, you know, how they're going to make a living. Am I going to have to look after them for the rest of their lives? Will they ever leave home? You know, all of that kind of stuff. And when I said that I was going to be an actor, my mum was just immediately encouraging. She was like, yes, of course, wonderful idea. You know, like, why wouldn't you? And my dad was obviously very worried. But to his credit, he didn't try and stop me. He just, the only thing he said was get your degree at university so that you have something to fall back on, which is indeed what I did. But you know, my mother, I remember I was at home, it was just after I'd left school, and a little leaflet came in the door, and it was typed, you know, as they all were in those days, and just hand delivered, and it was the local amateur dramatics company, and they were looking for actors, particularly young actors. And I showed it to my mum, and I said, do you think I should do this? He said, you think I could do it? And she said, yeah, I think you should do that. And I mean, she could easily have not, or she could easily have gone, well, it's up to you, or, you know, I don't know, how would I know? But she just gently encouraged me to do it. And I did, and that led on to everything, really.
Sorry if I missed it. What did you study at university?
English literature. The literature of the English language, yes. Yes, indeed.
Okay, so we
And
have
American literature. And American literature. Read a lot of American literature.
Tracy and, is it Tracy and Jay Peritons? Okay. Do you remember your question? You want me to ask it?
Which one do you have?
It's alright. About the impressions.
Yes. Hi, Graham.
Hello.
So, I'm Tracy, and my question is, I don't know if I need to stand somewhere. Okay, maybe this will work. So, my question is,
Did you just say it? I'll repeat.
you're really good at impressions. And
I'm really good at impressions.
And I really love your Little Red impression. So I was curious. If you were inspired by your travels to Tulsa 35 years ago and based it off of an Okie or Texan that you ran into.
Right. Yes. I don't know quite how I got into all this, but I have a very good friend called Nolan North, who is a voiceover artist. He's American, and we did a series of video games called Uncharted together, and we had a great time doing these games. We had a ball, and he is hands down one of the funniest people I've ever met. And I've met some funny people, but he's very funny. And I mean, I have to give him credit. He kind of started the whole thing. You know, he created this idea. He's going to hate me for telling you this, but he created this idea that he and I had some barn out the back of his house where we did just unspeakable things to people that strayed into our path. You know, so, you know, we would have had a few drinks at this point, okay? Just, you know, we didn't just immediately come up. Hey, let's talk about a barn. Yeah, no, so Little Red was also based on a joke, which was told to me, which I am not going to tell you, because it's, no. You know, there are jokes that you can tell, and then there are jokes that you think, maybe I just need to know the crowd a little better before I tell them. So anyway, Little Red was in that. And so I've always liked doing that. I do it with Sam. We do it in many kilts. It's very difficult to just suddenly come out with it. Yeah, I mean, what would we make of this? Yeah. Well, yeah. Why? Well, why y'all you men just wearing all them skirts, you know? I don't understand. You see me just running around. Why do you wear pants? I mean, pants work. You know, they're okay. Why do you need to dress like a woman? So that's the kind of way he thinks. It's kind of like, whoa, that took me by surprise. What's that thing on your skirt? That kind of hairy monster thing down the front. Is that like real? Is that gonna bite me or what? So that's him. And then my other favorite that I like, I mean other people might not like, well that's very common. Is Jason Statham. Jason Statham. Jason Statham talks the same way in everything is delivered exactly the same. So if you directed Jason to say I love you, it would be I love you. No, Jason, we need you to really mean I really love you. Yeah, he's not got a massive emotional range, Jason. He's really good at hitting people.
You mentioned at the start there that some alcoholic beverages may have been involved in that.
One of my life, yeah.
One of the questions from, I believe this is Sherry Kemptham, was what is your favourite adult beverage?
My favourite adult beverage. I love that. There's my adult beverage. And there's my little childlike beverages. I indulge in, moderately. Yeah, adult beverages. Wine. I do like wine. I like all sorts of wine. I'm not fussy. I like it to be nice. I don't like the kind of wine that makes you go. I like nice wine. And whiskey. I do like whiskey. I'm not at the level of Sam Hiram in terms of whiskey. Sam, it's like a religion. I think I mentioned it in Clanlands that when we go to a bar and he orders whiskey, he clearly knows his shit. He goes up and the barman is always like, and they kind of have this kind of moment together where they're looking into each other's eyes and going, you know your whiskey, sir. And he's, the nose. And he's swirling it around in his glass and drawing in deeply. And then he does this thing where he kind of cocks the glass a little bit. Like down, I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? This is insane. And I just fake it. Like most things. I just fake it. So I just really go, yeah. Oh, yeah, very woody. It's woody and stuff. I can hear the skirl of the pipes. It's delicious. Thank you. So I do like whiskey. I've got a big thing at the moment for Springbank, which is a lesser known distillery that's in the Campbellton region, Argyll. So that has a kind of Highland, island sort of flavour, a mix of those flavours, which is really lovely. And I know this is like heresy, but I did try a really amazing Japanese whiskey called Hakazuki. Small batch, 12-year-old. Oh, you've got to hand it to them. They did. The Japanese, they import the water from Scotland. They bring in the water. That's their level of dedication to, we're going to recreate this. So they bring in the water. And they have master distillers and all the rest of it who come from Scotland too. That's really good. But yeah, whiskey, wine, obviously the list is getting longer. Tequila, not shy of a gin and tonic. Known to occasionally have had rum, beer. Well, it's basically the optics behind the bar and everything that's on tap.
Do we have Kimberly Griswold?
Kimberly Griswold, where are you? Here you go.
I've heard your father is a piper.
Yes, he was, yes.
And I was wondering what it was like growing up with a piper, and did you learn how to play, and what is your favorite childhood memory?
Well, my father played the pipes less and less as he got older, sadly. But his favorite tune was The Black Bear, and he used to play that, and that was, it's always been a favorite of mine. And I never, as I said at the ceremony, I've never been able to listen to them without It just has this visceral kind of emotional effect on me. And every time I think, I'll be fine this time. I'll be fine. And then they start playing Flowers of the Forest and you're just like, oh. And it does it every time, and, which is good. I mean, some people incredibly hate the sound of the bagpipes, but they've done an experiment, and it's the drone. The drone of the bagpipes actually does have a physical effect on you. They've measured it in terms of motivation, like in exercise. They did 3 things. They had somebody exercising with no music at all. Then they had somebody exercising with kind of typical playlist, sort of, gym music. And then they had somebody, the same person, exercising with the bagpipes. And the person with the bagpipes performed noticeably better in terms of their physical exertion. It was somehow inspiring them to go further, which is why they use them in battle. When you're following somebody into battle who's doing that, it just makes you 10 foot tall, and it's fantastic. And when you see, I was lucky enough to go to the Edinburgh Tattoo about 3 weeks ago, and it's fantastic. And the masked band, we went and watched what they call the big blow at the back of the castle, where they're just tuning up, getting ready to go on. And that was even more powerful than the performance. You're just so close to them, and they're all tuning up together. They're all facing each other. There's like 300 of them, and you're just like, oh my God. If you were an enemy soldier facing that, you would just pack up and go home. Really, you're just like, I'm done. Thank you. Yeah, amazing. I love them. I love the pipes.
Okay, so next question is from Zachary Brent from Tulsa. He asked, while on Clanlands, what is something surprising that you learned that stuck with you?
When I was writing Clanlands, so much. So much. I mean, the feuding, the epic feuding among the Scots. I mean, I knew about feuds. I knew about the Campbells and the MacDonalds being the most famous one, Glencoe and all of that. And I kind of became interested in feuding because I've always thought that it's a little one-sided. Like there's, the Campbells are just evil, and the MacDonalds are these kind of put upon poor people who are minding their own business. And of course, the truth is, it's much more complicated than that. The MacDonalds, particularly the MacDonalds of Glencoe, were pretty much universally disliked by all their neighbours because they were constantly stealing their cattle. So it's important to know that. It's not like these were like angels living in the valley, minding their own business. So that's one thing, and then it led on to discovering about the MacLeods and the MacDonalds, their sort of giant feud. One of my favourites was the Gun Keith one, which only ended in 1975. I mean, that's really not giving up. That's like, shall we call it a day? No, let's keep it going for another 150 years. And they did. They just kept going for decade after decade after decade. And it all, I think the Gun Keith one, I'm trying to remember, I think that was the one where they met on a beach to settle a dispute. And then they were told that they could bring 12 of each clan. And I think the Guns arrived first with their 12 men, and then the Keiths arrived on 12 horses, but there were 2 on each horse. They're like, you didn't expect that, did you? It's chaos. So I wonder who's going to win. And so they just slaughtered them. And that was the beginning of the Gun Keith feud. They just went on and on. What was the other? The Macintosh. Clan Chatham. Yes, so that's a kind of like super clan. That's like they've got everybody in the neighbourhood all to join together. Do you want to join our huge clan? And then they all came together, and they had this big dispute with the Macintoshes. And this was settled by a pitched battle. Now I don't know how many of you know this, but the pitched battle was proposed by, I think, King Robert II. And they actually built a purpose-built kind of arena in a place called the North Inch in Perth. And King Robert had his own little stand, and people, they probably charged admission, and there were 30 from each clan were brought, and they were to fight until basically there was only one lot left standing. Just take a moment to imagine that. You know, like here we are now. You know, imagine after this Q&A, there's a pitched battle of 60 men to the death happening in the field next door, and that's what they did. And one of them turned up. I think it was the McIntoshes turned up with only 29 men, and so they were like, "Oh, well, it's no fair. If they're one man short, so we need to find another." So they went into the local pub, and they. I mean, it's incredible that this is true. They walked into the pub and basically said, "Lads, there's going to be a fight outside. You know, the usual swords, you know, claymores, axes, hammers, you know, whatever you can lay your hands on, really, you know." And they just beat the crap out of each other, but they're one man short, you know. So, anybody? And the local blacksmith, whose name, I can't remember, Henry someone, put his hand up, probably had a pint in his hand. He's like, "Aye, sure, yeah." So Henry goes out, and they have the pitch battle, during which time they have an interval. They have half time. I mean, I promise you, I'm not making this up. Pitch battle. At this point, I don't know how many have been killed already at this point, but there's a few of them that are still standing, and they're in their corners. I mean, one side across to the other. You know, blood stains, sweat, probably cuts all over them. How's it going with you, Joe? It's bad, man. It's bad. You know, my wee cousin, he got it, and there was my brother, he got killed, and there's like, "Right, time's up," and they're, "Oh, fuck, sorry, Jesus Christ, that was a short interval," and they're back in, and then they're fighting until literally there was one man left on one side, and he jumped into the River Tay to get away. And whoever it was, I can't remember to this day, does it really matter who won? I mean, they were just slaughtering each other. You imagine it'd probably been a hot day, and they'll be sitting there going, "Oh, that's a good one. Do you see that? Oh, amazing, whole head off. Fantastic." So they did this on a regular basis. So that's what I discovered more than anything when I was writing Clownhouse, that they have very long memories and that they're incredibly violent.
Well, staying on the topic of Clanlands, this is a fantastic Scottish name, Mackenzie Stewart from Arkansas. Mackenzie asks, "I know you're both an actor and a writer. Do you feel that your writing helps to serve you in being a better actor and vice versa?"
Riding or writing? Riding, horse riding. Oh, writing.
I've been here too long.
Writing. My riding definitely doesn't help, no. But my writing, yeah, I would say so. I mean, I've been in a lot of things where they're okay with improvisation. Rambo, amazingly. Sylvester Stallone, you wouldn't imagine necessarily was a great improvisational actor, but he is. First thing he said to me when we were on set, "You know, do you like improvisation?" I said, "Yeah, I do." "Great. Yeah, that's what we're doing." So we just improvised most of the film, and it's happened in a lot of things. I mean, in Outlander, the corn grinding line, which there you go. You see, the corn grinding line. We were on set, and I can't remember what the original line was, but we just shot the scene where I sing the song, "The Maid Gitti, the Mill Banicht," one of the most mangled songs in history. I mean, poor Grant O'Rourke, who was actually a very good singer, used to wince every time I sang that song. I murdered that song. But anyway, we just filmed it. And that refers to corn grinding. I was going to grind a corn. And I just said to Ira Bear, the writer and the director, and to Kat, I said, "Well, what about if I reference that instead of the line?" And they went, "Yeah, okay." And amazingly, they agreed, and that's how the line came to be. And now it's on T-shirts. So you never know. You never know.
Obviously this year we've got a very big Highland Athletics program. There are over 150 athletes, and if you haven't seen them, check them out. Have you ever participated in the Highland Athletics yourself?
But of course I participated. No, I did for men in kilts. We did, there's a lady waving. Hello, darling. Hi. Hello. Hi. We did this wonderful scene or sequence with Kyle Randall, I think his name is, who is a beast. I mean, he's a monster. You know, that kind of handshake that just emasculates you completely. You know, you suddenly look at your own hand and think, I have the hand of a child. And he's so sweet. You know, he probably does that, you know. I'm going to rip your head off. But anyway, he was amazing, and he showed us with the hammers amazing. And definitely one of my happiest, most joyful memories was beating Sam Hewitt at the hammer throw. Oh, it cannot be overstated. He was so, it even beat the golf, which that itself was amazing enough. He was so pissed off. You don't see it in Men in Kilts, they edited out the sulking. But he was, I mean, he was just, I thought, you're joking. You're not really that upset. And he was just like, just wouldn't talk. And I beat him at the putting, which they didn't put in. Beat him at the putting, beat him at the rugby. Yes, that's great. I know it's pathetic, I know. But, you know, he's always going on about rugby and Scotland and singing Flower of Scotland at the match, which is great. And, you know, and I said to him, I mean, I love rugby. And I said, so what position did you play when you played rugby? And he went, oh no, I've never played it. I went, what? I mean, I have to emphasise, it's almost impossible to go to school in Scotland, or England for that matter, definitely Wales, without playing rugby if you're a guy. And how he managed to get through an entire school education without playing rugby. And then have the gall to stand up and talk with any authority about this game. And so when I beat him at that was great. But the hammer throw was the best. It was so, I remember every moment when he wouldn't let go of the hammer. He just kept going round and round and round and round and round. And Kyle and I were standing next to each other going, wow, is he ever going to let go? And then he did. And, you know, I thought it was a pretty good throw. It was not bad. I mean, Kyle said, you know, that's not bad. And so I went in fully expecting to fail miserably, right? And I'm quite willing to accept that it was mainly luck, but I threw it and I beat him. I beat him. And yes, that was great. That moment where I fall to my knees and call out, that was completely spontaneous. It was like from somewhere deep inside me, this expression of joy at his pain. Great. Yeah. I'm just going to sit and think about that for a minute.
Well, what do you think about that one? When filming Men in Kilts, you visited the Dunedin Castle of the MacLeod Clan. If you can recall, what was your favourite part of the castle itself? And that was from Melissa Smith.
Good question. This is where the truth comes out. We were on a very, very, very tight schedule, and we were charging about, and I remember that day, it was a beautiful day, but we had to get into a rowing boat and sing the opening to Outlander while we were rowing around. And you wouldn't believe how long that took. It was just, you know, getting the boat in the right position and then getting the background and the light and getting the cameras and things. And then that went on and on. So we never actually got inside the castle at all. We never set foot inside that castle, which I'm very sorry to admit that. It's a beautiful castle. And it of course contains the fairy flag, which has, the legend goes that it was given to a MacLeod by a fairy, that the ancestor had married a fairy and she'd given birth to this MacLeod. And part of, I think I'm right in saying that the legend was that they could keep the baby if
the fairy left and never came back, basically. So the last thing she said, she wrapped it in the fairy flag. And the tradition goes that it can be unfurled 3 times to save the clan. And it has been unfurled twice. And it has saved the clan on both occasions. And so it has 1 to go. And it's yet to be unfurled for the 3rd time. So that's in Dunvegan Castle.
Fantastic. Well, continuing on the history type of questions. And this is a pretty lengthy question from, so I'm going to read this one as well, from Phyllis Provisas from Kansas. Okay, so the question was, Phyllis is going to Scotland next spring. She wants to know more about who our ancestors were and what their life was like. Turns out most of our ancestors were most likely Jacobites at the time. We ended up in Northern Ireland and then later in America. Given that in your role as Dougal Mackenzie, you did quite a bit of research, mentioned a bit about research. Is there any thoughts that you have on where she might be able to gain insight into not just the history of the period, but who they were, what their life was like, places to visit, that type of thing?
Yeah, you're actually you're very lucky with the resources in Scotland for that. I would encourage you, first of all, in Edinburgh, there's go to the you can go onto a website called Scotland's People, and you can pay a small fee and then be able to access the census records and be able to trace yourself, your own family history. The Highland history is much less clear because they didn't register their births often. They just wouldn't. Often there was no sort of written account of that happening after beyond a certain point. So I think I can go back to the late 18th century in my McTavish line, whereas my lowland Scots line, the Grahams and all of that clan, I'm able to go back a long way to, I think 16th century is the furthest I've been able to get back with any precision. I mean, it's important to point out that, you know, whenever, if you start going back, even it's certain that at some point, you know, we are all related. You know, we are. And so, you know, we just go back that far. I think Edward III is supposed to be the cut-off point. Everybody is essentially related to Edward III. Because when you start creating a tree that big, there are bound to be intersections. I mean, it's like anything, you know, so definitely, in my experience of looking into this, the history of your recent family, the ones who came here from Scotland, if you have any Scottish heritage, the ones who actually came, their story will probably be the most extraordinary and one that you might genuinely be able to access. Why they came, where they came from, and then you can start piecing together the history around it and really start to imagine what it was like for them to come here. I mean, it's difficult for us to even conceive of it because we travel now. We don't think too much about traveling. You know, we might not travel abroad all the time, but most people in this room have probably traveled somewhere abroad. But these people had never, ever, ever traveled outside of their local area, let alone abroad. So the idea of stepping onto a ship, often not voluntarily, because you were being forced off the land or you were in such poverty that your only choice really was to look for a life elsewhere, to give up that land, knowing that almost certainly you would never see it again. You would never see it. You would never see the land that you grew up in, the land that your father came from and your grandfather and all the rest of it. And you set off on that journey. And to arrive here in whenever it was, you know, the 18th century, the 19th century, what America was like then, and what it took for those people to create a life here from nothing. I mean, they would have arrived.
We got time for one more question, and this is from Barbara from Florida. Florida. Hello. Hello. So Barbara's on with Roger and asked a question. Okay. As an English major in school, do you have any plans to screenwrite in your future?
Oh, screenwrite, wow. Well, not immediately. I mean, I do have plans I really want to write a book about, it wouldn't be an autobiography, because I think that's kind of that's something that a lot of people do if they're actors or, you know, whatever. I'm more interested in talking about the life of acting, because I think there's a lot of misconceptions about acting. I think they see it as, they either see it as impossibly stupid and insecure and ridiculous, or that you're just having the most glamorous time all your life. And neither of those are true. I mean, it is an insecure profession, but what I'm interested in writing about, and it will involve talking about my own experiences, I suppose, is why people do something like that. And it's not just acting. You know, it's anything. I mean, why do we do anything? Why do we end up where we are? And most of us end up where we are by accident, through a series of forks in the road that we couldn't have predicted. And there are decisions that we made at those forks that we didn't even know that they were forks, that have led to the place we are in now. Good things and bad things, good decisions, bad decisions, regrets, luck, all of these things. And I'm interested in that, talking about that in terms of a journey. I feel like I'm old enough now to talk about it a little bit. I mean, I've been doing this for nearly 40 years. And so I'm just interested in doing that. And I'm also interested in writing fiction, historical fiction. And I would be really interested in writing something about Scottish history, because I find it so endlessly fascinating. And so I have an idea in my head for a character that I'd like to write about. But it's I know it sounds lame, but it's about finding the time as well. But those are long-term goals, and it would be something that would bring me back to the very beginning of my life in terms of what I wanted to do. So that's what I'm hoping.
Graham, thank you very, very much for taking the time.
Thank you.
Before we finish, we've got a small presentation from one of our sponsors, Rustic Cuff. They've custom made some things for you.
Oh, what? Really?
If they come on stage,
I am
share this with you.
I am like when it comes to presents. I love it. It's my birthday's at a really shit time of the year, January the 4th. Thank you. So it's a birthday. I'm putting. Wow, that's amazing. Let me show you. These are custom-made bracelets. That's so lovely. Thank you very much. I've never actually owned a bracelet in my life, and this is fantastic. They're so beautifully done. Wow. I will wear these with pride. Thank you very much indeed. And a beautiful case. Oh, that's so nice of you. Thank you so much. Really, I really do.
If you want your own a Rustic Cuff bracelet, they are exhibiting just in the centre of the festival.
I'd asked that this time,
At this time, we just have to project. At this time, I'd ask that we exit both sides of the tent. We all have the photographs in here if you purchase that at 3 p.m. Sorry, my voice is going. If we could